First song that was really what they got on here was the song that says Romeo. Do you see anything or no? Are you gonna try? Whoa. Is that Romeo?
Oh, I promise I'll let you know. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, no, really? Is it on?
Yep.
About to have a baby. I'm about to feed my first baby. How do we let our son know that this is our first baby? This is our Christmas countdown. I have to switch it to your birthday, December 9th. We need to put a special something on there. This is what your dad is doing the morning of.
Alright, Romeo, I wish I could have been in Kansas City for your birth, but...
To give birth in Kansas City? Just
to be born in Kansas City.
Oh, okay. Loading up the car, on our way to the hospital. Can't wait to meet you, son. I love you so much. We'll see you when we get back with the little brother. I love you. Okay, we're at the hospital. About to go in. We love you, buddy. We can't wait to meet you. Dad won't let me carry any of my own bags, but he's a gentleman. I've always wanted one of these cups. Yeah, like the hospital cups. Like I feel like those are... Oh, and I get yellow sticky socks. That's a good sign. This is where you're gonna go so soon. And they have this tiny little stocking on the door that I'm obsessed with. I wonder if we can take it and put your name on it. We have some palm trees. How are you feeling? About to meet your son. It's like there's nothing to do to like prepare in here. This is my gown. But I'm so excited.
Crazy that Romeo's still in there.
I know. He's gonna be here in like less than 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it, show the sign.
Happy birthday.
Oh.
Yeah. That's going to be a fun pressure. That's fine. Do great. Just hang in there. Oh my goodness. And then I'm going to love him just a second. Here we go. I got to get him crying first. I think he is so cute. Like, you got to do it. There we go. He's just happy. I love mommy. Auntie Heidi with baby Romy. I'm gonna spoil you. I think tonight will be the last night at the hospital. So weird. I mean, my belly is still a little bit there, but it's so weird not having a belly anymore. Natalie and Rachel came to visit today, and it was so special. It's like boring.
He's looking up at her like, Mom, I'm doing this.
I can't wait to bring him home. But he's ready to go home. I can't wait for him to meet Trav. It's been the most magical 48 hours of my entire life. And honestly, wild, like just physically, mentally, everything. But I can't wait to just be cozy in our own home, and the fact that it's like Christmas almost is so fun. Not the little Santa toes. Very precious. Is Grandma giving you a Okay, it's bedtime now, so swaddled, changed, clean, happy, hoping for a better night tonight, but we'll see.
Very funny voice recording.
Okay, my eyes, I need to scratch it. My left eyelid. No, other left.
Oh yeah.
Scratch it. No, the lid. There you go. Higher. Oh yeah.
Well, hello you guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for allowing me to have a little break these last couple of weeks. It has been crazy. Obviously I'm now a mother, which is just the craziest thing ever. Yeah, it's just been so special. If you hear like little grunts and things, that's my son. That's probably gonna happen moving forward in a lot of my videos. You might hear him or things like that, but yes, it's just been the most magical like last few weeks, honestly. I feel like I just keep saying life has felt like a simulation, like between the holidays and having a newborn baby, and like there's just been no schedule, which is totally okay, but it's just been so crazy. And I feel like honestly yesterday and today has been like the first days of like, okay, this is what life is really gonna be like. So it's been great, but having a baby, probably one of the craziest things I've ever done, especially a C-section. I mean, I definitely think like both a vaginal birth or a C-section, both have like pros and cons, both have like they're both wild, to be honest, and neither of them are easy. But I will say, I feel like the scariest part of my C-section was the anxiety of it, and like leaving Isaac and having to go get like the spinal tap and all of that stuff like by myself. They basically like wheeled me out and they were like, okay, like, do you want to say goodbye to Isaac like one last time? Which I don't know if that's good verbiage, but I was like, oh, well, yeah. And so then we like hug goodbye, and I was like totally good until then. And then it was like sobbing, crying. Then I feel like my doctor was like, okay, it's okay. And I'm like, I'm being wheeled out and I'm like crying, and all these nurses are around me and doctors, and they're like, it's okay, it's okay. And I feel like when you're crying and people tell you that, it like only makes it worse. But it was just like, I was just anxious and scared to like obviously do all of this. And I would, obviously you don't have to be alone the whole time, but just while you get the spinal tap and they like prep you and like get the surgery started, I guess you have to be by yourself. So anyways, and I got wheeled into the C-section room. They get me like going to start my spinal tap, and I have to be like hunched over on a table. I'm still crying because I'm scared of like what is about to happen. I'm about to get a massive needle into my back and go numb. Literally all my nurses are angels, but specifically my nurse who helped me through the surgery and my spinal tap, she's my queen, because I was literally hunched over as they were about to put the needle in. We were holding hands and I was like hunched over like this, and her forehead was on my forehead, and she's like, just breathe, like you got this. And I was just a very bonding moment. And it's crazy that you have these like experiences with these nurses, and then it's like, I'll probably never see her again, maybe when I have another baby, but who knows. She was amazing. I loved all my nurses so much. So then after that, it was pretty crazy of like, I got the spinal tap and it was like warmth in my legs. It was a very crazy feeling. But then honestly, there wasn't much feeling after that. Then they kind of like lift your dead weight legs and basically bottom half of my body onto the operating table, and then a sheet goes up and I don't really like see anything. I could feel like them touching me and like drapes being moved across my body and stuff, and like pressure, but there was never really any pain, which I'm super thankful for. Like something that's so crazy is I'm like, I never felt a contraction, and like my water never broke, which is such a, like that's what you think of when you think of birth. But if you have a scheduled C-section like I did, you most likely don't really have those things, which is crazy. I would say the surgery was like an hour to an hour and a half long, like from start to finish. And then like 30 minutes from starting, I had the baby on my chest, and you don't really get to like see him right away. It was like, this is exactly what they told me. They're like, okay, like you're gonna feel pressure. I'm like, okay. And then I feel like what they did was like basically like go like push in and then pull out, because I feel like I was just sitting there and I felt like my body was like, and I couldn't like feel anything besides like weird pressure, and like my body was like moving when they were like doing things to me. Yeah, basically they're like, okay, you're gonna feel a lot of pressure. I'm like, okay. And I did. And then it was like this relief of pressure. And then they're like, boom, baby. His first cry is, I could cry thinking about it. And one of the first things they said when they pulled him out, they're like, he has hair, he's blonde. And then they're like, wait, it's actually kind of orange. And it was so like, I couldn't see right away until I was like laying flat, and I was like, I can't see. I just kept saying that to Isaac, and he's like, hold on, like he's coming. Then they like, there's like 2 layers of sheets, and so they laid down the sheet where I couldn't see anything, and then it was just like a clear plastic, and then they basically hold him up to the clear plastic and like put him to my face. And so I just like kissed him through the little like plastic. He still has all of his gunk and all that stuff on him. So I got to see him, like hear him cry and everything. And then they took him away to not really even like
clean him off, but I feel like just to like make sure he was like breathing and like making sure everything was fine. And then they wrapped him up and immediately like came and put him on my chest, which that was something that I requested. And I told Isaac like a million times because I wasn't sure if I was gonna be like too on drugs necessarily to like hold him like by myself, but thankfully I wasn't. And when you have a C-section, you're like awake. You're on drugs, but awake. We talked about it beforehand and I was like, please, like immediately, as soon as you can, if you hold him first or if I hold him first, however it goes, I'm like, if I can't hold him first, place him on my face and near me as soon as possible. But thankfully I was like okay enough and they just kind of cleaned him off and immediately brought him to me. So I got to hold him immediately and it was perfection. I was like definitely on heavy drugs, but like I remember all of these moments very clearly. For the rest of the surgery, I just kind of got to hold him, and then Isaac cut the cord, which we weren't sure if he was gonna do that from the beginning because he just wasn't super interested in all the like blood or like looking at things. So Isaac definitely stayed up towards me. He didn't really want to look over the curtain or anything like that, which I'm like, that's okay. A major surgery, you don't really need to look and see what's going on. It was pretty scary. My anesthesiologist actually is the one who like took photos for us. And I think just because she sees this stuff all the time, it was like, as soon as he was like out, she was like over the curtain, like snapping photos. And now I'm like so thankful for those things looking back, but I'm like, Isaac wouldn't have gotten that content for me. I'm so glad I have those photos, but they're pretty intense. Anyway, so I got him on my chest. We had like skin to skin, like very precious moment. Isaac cut the cord. He did so good. And then they brought him back over to me and basically just was on my chest for the rest of the surgery. Again, like I felt weird like pressures and stuff. Like it felt like they were like doing this to me. That was like the feeling that I felt. I felt things, pressure, yeah, but again, no pain, which is amazing. As soon as the surgery is over, they wheeled me back into like my recovery room, and then you have to wait in there for like 2 to 3 hours before you can like have any visitors or anything like that. And then they wheel you to your like postpartum room, and then you can get like visitors and all that stuff. But honestly, I was so thankful for that time where it was like just Isaac and I and Romy. I feel like it was just so like special, and like I was so like still on drugs too, and honestly exhausted. I just kind of like, I was like half asleep, half awake for those like 2 hours after surgery. Something that I did not like about my C-section was, so when you get the spinal tap or whatever, I think my anesthesiologist was like scared because I was crying when I was like getting bailed out at first, and so she gave me like extra like medicine or whatever, or like I don't know what drugs it is that like numbs you. And so basically I think the normal time for it to last is like 2 to 3 hours, and I think mine lasted like 5 to 6 hours. And so basically I was like paralyzed, like I couldn't feel anything from like here down for like 6 complete hours. And so even like we had like some of our family like coming and visiting us like right after the surgery and like to see the baby and stuff, and I still like they would come and like talk to me and stuff, and I was like, you guys, I still can't feel my legs. And so that was genuinely like one of the worst parts of it. Was I feel like that gave me like major anxiety of like, oh my God, like I know I wasn't going to be paralyzed forever, but it's just like, okay, like time is passing, like I'm feeling like more normal now, why can't I feel my legs? That was like definitely a horrible feeling. It was like slowly but surely I was like, okay, I can move my toes now, okay, I can like kind of like move my hips now. It was fine, but I was like, oof, I feel like if there's anything I would do differently, I would be like, listen, it's okay if I cry, I just don't want to be paralyzed for 6 hours after the surgery, because that was just scary. One of the more like frustrating things, I feel like just personally, it wasn't having to do with anyone else, was with a C-section, you have like, it's a major surgery, but then it's also like you just have a newborn baby, so it's like you just, all I wanted to do was like take care of him. But it was like I couldn't get up out of bed, like barely, without help. I couldn't go to the bathroom like right away. Well, I couldn't even like get up and walk. Like I don't even know if I think I did it that same day, but like much later. The first and second night, like Isaac basically took care of Romeo like the entire time, and I feel like that was kind of hard for me. And even like the first 2 weeks being home, like Romeo was on Isaac's side of the bed, just because like getting up and down like out of the bed and like going to the restroom and all that stuff was so hard for me because of just my incision, and all that stuff is just super painful. And honestly, I'm 3 weeks postpartum now and it's still pretty painful. I would say like using the muscle isn't painful anymore, but it's like any like rushing of like that area or like
touching of the area of a C-section, it's still like very sore. So that I just feel like I find myself getting frustrated. I'm like, I just want to be healed already, but I just have to give myself grace of like, no, like you literally had a major surgery. Like it's just gonna hurt for a while, and it's just gonna take probably around the full like 6 weeks to like completely heal. Overall, I loved my C-section experience. I feel like for my personality, having a planned day where I knew it was gonna happen, a very controlled like thing, whereas when you have like a vaginal birth, I feel like anything can happen. It can be, I know some of my friends have had like the longest, most complicated, like hard labors. And then I have other friends who had their vaginal birth wasn't a breeze, but it was like quick and they loved it and a very peaceful experience. So it's kind of like, you don't really know what that experience is gonna be. But if you have a C-section, you kind of like know the vibes of what's gonna happen when you go into it. So I didn't mind that. Besides the like recovery part, like the C-section itself, like getting the spinal tap was scary. But again, like none of this was like very painful because I was just numb. I couldn't feel anything. I feel like I kind of have a low pain tolerance, so I feel like that was good for me. And moving forward, honestly, I feel like once you have a C-section, you kind of have a choice of, okay, do you want to have C-sections moving forward, or do you want to try and have a VBAC, which is like a vaginal birth? And I honestly, like after talking to Isaac, I'm like, I feel like I will always have C-sections, like because I feel like besides, I feel like a little bit of a longer recovery time and like that kind of stuff in the hospital where I can't really take care of them right away, and even stuff at home. But I feel like I would have more C-sections. So that's my opinion. I had a great experience, but I know some people, when it's like emergent and stuff like that, I know it's different, but I don't necessarily feel passionate about like needing to have a vaginal birth or anything like that. But yeah, that is kind of my birth story. Because he was like breached the entire time, I knew that I was gonna have a C-section, so I kind of had this in my head like the entire time. I'm very, very happy with like how everything went. All of my doctors and nurses are, again, amazing. I was just like, I've never had a surgery before, and so just like, you are so vulnerable before, during, after, and like these women, I had all women, so these women were my literal angels. Like I got one of their phone numbers afterwards because I just feel like, well, one, she was so cool, and I was like, I feel like we could be friends outside of this. I'm like, I don't know if I just am like having a weird like emotional connection to you because you helped me like literally at my most vulnerable time. Now I'm like texting her and she's like, ask me any questions you have about the baby, or if you have any questions in general. I'm like, okay. And so I'm like texting her about all this stuff. I'm like, is this normal? Is this normal? But I'm like, I love him so much. And I spent my last day in the hospital like writing them all Christmas cards and like getting them little gift cards and stuff. But I'm like, that's not even enough. Like nothing I can do is enough to like thank all of the nurses and doctors and stuff that helped me before, during, post-birth. The last 3 weeks with our son have been just honestly the most like surreal thing ever. Like it just doesn't feel like, life doesn't really feel real right now. We're just in the newborn swing of things. Sleep is far and few between these days, but I feel like we're kind of like getting a hang of it and getting into our routine slowly but surely. I never want to take like any of these little moments for granted. I'm like, as hard as waking up in the middle of the night and like today he spit up on me like literally 3 times on the couch, on my pants. We were trying to get going. Like as stressful and like overwhelming as it can be sometimes, I'm like, I just feel like this is just like this season that we're in, and it's like you'll look back on this and be like, what, like it was nothing. Everything is so worth it for like your baby. It's like there's no feeling to like describe it really. Yeah, we just love him so much. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change the timeline of everything. I wouldn't change my birth. Like everything was just like so perfect and exactly how God intended it to be. So, lastly, his name, Romeo Ray Wilson. I always thought I was gonna probably be like choosing the names, but Isaac actually thought of Romeo, and I feel like we were just like looking through all the name lists and trying to think of things and like bouncing things off each other, and like nothing was like hitting or sticking. And Isaac and I were actually literally watching the like Romeo and Juliet, the like Leonardo DiCaprio version of that movie. I think we were coming home from Kansas City, like we were on an airplane. Isaac was just like, what about the name Romeo? And I was like, actually kind of sick. Like, I love it. I think that's perfect. And I feel like we thought about it for like 2 days and we're like, oh no, that's perfect. Like that's the name. We picked Romeo, and then I feel like I fell in love with the name like Romy or just Rome. I always loved Rome too, but I feel like Romeo, I was like, oh, like it's definitely like unique, but not like too unique. I love it. I think it's perfect. I think it's like vintage, but like classic. Like it's a name, you know, like it's not like too out there, which is something that we wanted. Isaac was very passionate about like, could it be too out there? So I feel like this is like the perfect mix of like, just like us, and now like having him here, I'm like, oh, of course it's Romeo. Like it's Romy. It's my son. It just fits him perfectly. I feel like while he's a baby, I will always call him Romy, but I feel like maybe when he's older, he's gonna be wanting to be called like Romeo or Rome. But who knows?
Maybe I want to be called Romy. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm so excited to be back. I don't know necessarily the schedule, if I'm gonna be back every week on YouTube or every other week to start out, but I was so excited to get this video out to you guys and just kind of share my birth story and some of the like hospital behind the scenes of everything, what I've been up to the last couple weeks. So I love you and I will see you soon. Isaac told me I need to show the people what they want to see. If there's one thing Isaac is going to do, it's put him in a Chiefs outfit every day. We actually are all wearing Chiefs. Heidi, my little ginger baby. Love you, Romeo. I love you.